class, 1977 to 81. Walter Shepard was on the Norton Sound as a civilian, but that's okay. He said he was a civilian nerd, but I don't think he looks very nerdy at all. And he was on there. We also have Carl and, Bobby Keene was on the Norton Sound, a machinist mate, third class, and Orwell Hoffman was I'm having a hard time reading this, a mailman on the Norton Sound.
And Clyde Taylor? Yeah,
Clyde Taylor
was
who I
on
didn't get a chance to get and he was on the Norton
He
Sound
was
as
on the
a
Norton Sound.
Chief Yeoman. Okay. Our other special guests are Rick Post, and he is the Vice Chancellor of Educational Services. We have Orvine and Georgia Carpenter. Orvine was a former mayor. I can see we have somebody who just came in here to look into it. Master Chief Daniels is here. We have, let me see, so many people. Okay, we have the Mayor Pro Tem, Jonathan Sharkey. Jim Hensley is here. Now, with his name is Carl Andrino.
Carl? He's captain of Naval Air, Vice Commander of Naval Air under Captain Yankee, right?
So we have nothing but celebrities here in this audience. We're just thrilled. Helping out the Chancellor, Cherise Bellamy. She's the PIO, and Beth Shepard, who's in the Chancellor's office. And of course, the indispensable Tony Luskin. And she needs to be acknowledged as well, because she's a big part of his life. Now, Bob Allen is going to be streaming this live, so if you have people out there, you can text them if this is coming out. We will also have a videotape that we will post within a couple days. Is that right, Kurt?
Yep.
Okay. And I think I got everybody. If I didn't get somebody, I'm sorry.
Paul McKee, 1952.
Okay, you were on the Norton Sound. And Betty McKeon is here, and Betty McKeon, her father was the first mayor of Berkeley.
And then I'd like to introduce my friend. Oh, Lieutenant Commander Stewart. I beg your pardon. Retired Navy.
The first transmission was a nuclear warhead in May of '62. At Christmas Island, within 1 mile of target.
Wow. That's great to know. And then I have my friend who's a retired anthropology professor from Syracuse University, which is Dr. Mark Fleischman. And now I'd like to introduce Dr. Bernie Luskin, who I spoke with this morning. I read his bio, and I can tell you he has an impressive biography. Here's a fellow that came from nothing, was a seaman on the Norton Sound, and went off to be a successful educator. And it is a distinct honor for me to introduce Bernie. Thank you.
I'm really beyond thrilled to be here, and I'm flattered that I'm flattered that all of you showed up, but I'm shocked, that Captain Andina's got better things to do, but I really appreciate you being here. We've been talking about doing a lot of things, and we have some activities going on together that I think are quite important. Beverly acknowledged some of you, so I'm not going to go through it all again. But all it seems to me that you're the senior Norton Sounder, 1952.
Yes, sir.
Anybody earlier than 1952? that's a relief for me because I didn't want to be the senior. It's starting to bother me a little bit. Yeah,
I had the greatest captain there was, Captain West Hoffman.
yeah. I had two skippers. One was Gordon P. Chung-hoon, and the other one was Robert Gralla. So it was kind of a great experience. Well, I'm gonna try to chat a little bit with you, and now that I know so many of you, raise your hand if you were on the Norton Sound, just so I can get a snapshot. Wow, Bob Ellen is taking a video that I guess is gonna go online for this thing, and Bob has got KADY at Oxnard College, so I have no idea how this is gonna come out, but we'll see how it comes out. Oh, you're streaming live now? Wow, I don't know, maybe nobody's out there. Some of you, well, I can't lie because you guys know the whole story. I hadn't really tried to kind of resurrect the story in my mind for a long time until Beverly got a hold of us and asked me to come here and talk about the Norton Sound and its history and my history with it. And I don't know even how you found me there, except that I'm very active in Veterans Affairs in Ventura County. And when I go to the various activities, I tell them that I'm a vet and I was on the Norton Sound, and a little bit of the history that I'm going to share with you. And Vice Chancellor Rick Post is with me today. Oh, look, your hand, Rick. You got any questions, you can ask him. Captain Andrina understands that. I got something I need to get done. I just get Rick to do it, so he does most of the work. And he's also a disabled vet from the Navy, so but he wasn't on the Norton Sound. Well, let me kind of get into this. Charisse is going to help me, and Beth is going to help me, and you're going to give me the little. I'm going to go pretty rapidly, I think, and then maybe we can chat a bit because I have to think back. And I was talking to Beverly. I mean, who was interested in talking about the story? Tony's heard it enough that she's kind of bored with it, and who do you talk to? So being here is just really extraordinary. You were a commander. Were you a commander, a lieutenant commander when you were on the Norton Sound? Because my exec was a lieutenant commander. Were you a big enough shot? What was your role? I can say that now. I'm not dead. What was your role on the Norton Sound?
I was the special services officer and the general officer.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Anyway, it's a long story. You all know about Port Hueneme, and I don't want to skip over too much stuff. We worked and we put this together. And so I don't know what everybody knows and what everybody doesn't know. I assume that everybody here is really quite sophisticated. I don't know if you can see this. Can you see it? But this is Naval Base. It's about Naval Base Ventura County. It merged in. I think Magoo and Hueneme are under one overall base command now. So, and it's the only deep water port between Los Angeles and San Francisco. And I know that that the harbor here is got the biggest. You know, if you're going to get bananas, they have to come through Oxnard. It's the most significant delivery port for bananas in the United States. So that's the fact that I know. And the CVs are here, and it was built in the early days of World War II. You probably remember 1952. You were a little late because they launched it at the Norton Sound about 43.
Took my physical in Los Angeles, and the day they dropped the bomb on Hiroshima.
Whoa, gives me chills just to think about it. And it was the central construction, CB construction base for World War II, and I I didn't know the Norton Sound was quite as legendary as it is until I started to put this together. And Beth and Cherie started helping. We began to find out about it. But it was launched in '43. It got battle stars for warding off suicide flights, and it did about 150 missions during World War II, so it was really battle scarred. When they converted it in '51, and you were on in '52, so you were right there when it first became a missile ship. And I think its claim to fame for Port Hueneme is quite significant. I was a little sentimental when I saw the anchor and I pulled up, because it's probably one of the most significant historical vessels in American history and the Navy because of what happened on it. And I had no idea that was what was going on. And because it got fitted with various types of missile launchers, I saw them all, and did the Carrier, Tartar, Polaris, Argus missile launches, throughout the 50s and the 60s and into the 70s till it was decommissioned. So we fired all of those, and I happened to be aboard from 1956 to '58, which shocked me, because that's when the Argus task force was put together, and we fired the 3 most dramatic missiles, they say, in the history of the United States, the first nuclear warhead. So it was pretty dangerous there, and they called it Argus, Project Argus. And Argus is a mythical Greek god with 1,000 eyes, or 100 eyes. So I looked it up. But it was the ship that really initiated the initial study of cosmic radiation and the radiation belt around the world. So, and the launch that I saw is the one that established the radiation belt, identified it, and so forth. So it was quite significant, because we conducted. I'll summarize this, and I want to say something about me. Not that you talk about me, but there is a little bit of a story here, and it's cute. It is to me. But these are facts. And when Beth and Therese and I were working on this, there's a lot of video on the Norton Sound. I mean, they documented the reports. If you think about it, it's almost 60 years ago. When I was on 56 years ago. So they didn't have the kind of thing that Bob has now. I mean, but they shot film and they did their recording, so they memorialized some of these things, and I found a lot of it. And so this is literal. I didn't make up these words. We took these out of the video literally, because it sounds like you're lying. I mean, this was like exaggerating, but I'm not exaggerating. The Norton Sound conducted the first firing at sea of missiles that had a nuclear warhead, warheads. I'm going to show you the launch, and I'll tell you something about it. And Captain Andrina will appreciate this, because we talked just for a couple seconds, but I'm going to tell you some things that, I mean, you're a captain. I was a yeoman there, so that was a whole different thing. So I'll tell you my story, he can tell you his story. It's the Washington Post and New York Times wrote that this was the most complicated missile launch of that period, ever, at that time. And the Argus launch was considered the most dangerous missile launch ever, because it had nuclear warheads, and they didn't really know what they were doing. They just shot them wherever. They shot them up there. I'll tell you a little story. And the Argus launch was one of the greatest experiments ever carried out. So, and I was on the ship. You guys were on the ship too. I just happened to be there in August and September of 1958 when they shot 4 of the nuclear warheads off. And so when I was putting this together, I drew a little sketch, and I said, wow, that was pretty complicated. And I think after the launch on the Norton Sound, simple times were gone forever. And I think that's the truth. I mean, I really think that's the truth. I think that was the turning point. I think what happened there was more than significant. And in 1958, they launched Sputnik for the first time, so it was the first time a satellite was set up in stationary orbit. So the whole world changed in 1958, and the Norton Sound was right in the center of it. Before I show this video, this is Rear Admiral Edward Parker, who was the chief in charge of Argus. So I wanted to, it's only about 5 minutes of video when we broke it up because I didn't want to overdo it with the video, and a lot of it's online. But I wanted you to get it in his own words. I didn't want you to get it from me because everybody here that was on it has a story to tell. So I want you to tell their story. But I went through boot camp in San Diego. Oh, well, a little back. I grew up in Whittier, graduated from Whittier High School. My parents were from the Ukraine. My mother is 103. She lives in Seal Beach. She's still with us. My father passed. And I grew up first generation, not really knowing very much, so I was 18 years old and didn't know what to do, so I joined the Navy. I mean, when you didn't have any idea what to do, just went down and they sent me to San Diego. I got done in San Diego, they gave me a sea bag, and they sent me up to Port Hueneme. So I remember, I was telling a couple of people as we came in, I got here, there were 6 of us came up on the bus, and I had my bag, and I went up the ramp, and the executive officer was on the deck, and we stood there, and he said, "Welcome aboard. Anybody type?" I said, "I took typing." "You're a captain's yeoman." He cut me out of the line, sent the other guy. I was going to be a hospital corpsman. They sent these other guys off, and he held me back, and he took me into his office, and we sat down and we chatted. And the exec actually ran the office. The skipper was on the top, and I had a big office next to him, and I was the captain's yeoman. You know, we had a chief that worked with it. He was busy doing other things, but I maintained the captain's office, and so it was a great experience. I'm not going to say too much about it. I was talking to a couple of, but I was a real big shot, automatically, because I was the captain's yeoman. I took the courses. I got to be a 3rd-class yeoman, so I did office practice. But the 3 things that I was most significantly in charge of was when the ship went out, I could manage the cars that would be loaded on the back, and we could take a few cars with us when we went someplace. My car and others. So that was a really high priority. I was in charge of Liberty chits, so when people wanted to go off the ship, they had to check out with me, and I gave them the Liberty chit. So I was a big shot, and I was in charge, I don't want to say this, but because I'm a college professor, but I was in charge of venereal disease. I had all that, and I had crypto secret clearance. I could deal with all this stuff because I was managing the captain's office, and captain used to, I had help with Captain and Rena. The skipper used to be on the top of the captain's quarters, and I'd go up, and he was in his skivvies. He'd sit in his chair. Nobody knows this. I've never told this story. But he'd call me up because he liked me, and he'd tell me up, and I'd get him. We'd order coffee, or he'd tell me what to do. So it was really quite a thing. Because he was like God on Olympus, you know. And I mean, but he liked me. He wouldn't even take the damn ship out and bring it back without me on the earphones, because we got to be really close. And I was his major gopher. So I learned to, and I'm still, now I got married to Tony, so I'm still a gopher. So that was the story. So, and then I'm going to get into this. In fact, I'll tell you this little part of my personal story in bits and pieces. I want you to hear Rear Admiral Parker about the Norton Sound, because this is significant. So, Beth, if you would do that, I would appreciate it.
Argus was a large and complex project, a worldwide laboratory experiment. It was undoubtedly the largest scale single geophysical experiment ever programmed. Yet it was carried out under the considerable handicap of a top secret restricted data classification. This was imposed mainly by political necessities and maintained so successfully that very few of the actual operational personnel ever knew the relation of their activities to the whole Argus experiment.
Okay, I put very short clips. Now, I'm going to show you another short clip. And Argus, we fired 4 missiles. We fired lots of missiles. We used to go out there, and nobody cared if you shot them in the Channel Islands. We shoot goats, do all kinds of stuff. They'd fly drones out, you know, and just for Captain Andrina and the rest of you. I don't know how many of you were on the phones. You know, some of you guys were in machinists. You were down, and all the things were clanking and all that kind of stuff. But my bunk was in the back of the boat, the back of the ship by the screws, and I loved being down there. And then, you know, being in charge of the captain's office, when I'd stand the watches, I loved the deck watches and the midnight watch because I would order myself 15 sandwiches. I'd sit there from 12 o'clock I'd stand my 4-hour watch and I had my 15 sandwiches and coffee. I could walk around there. I thought I died and went to heaven. I mean, there was no more fun than that.
Nothing changed.
No, but that's absolutely the truth. I just had a great time. So, but it was good. So I'm going to mix. My story is the story of a yeoman on there that was young in the context of all of this super sophisticated stuff going on. I had no idea. I mean, I understood because I had top secret clearance. And I had all the documents, and I'd clean the floors. You know, we had this machine that spun around and put the wax on. I mean, you had to be able to heat off of everything in there. I kept perfect files. I typed all these emails and did all these things. But I had things that went from the captain through my fingers out of the typewriter and into the mail. Just didn't go through my head because I had no idea what I was just moving this stuff along. But it was pretty good and I was enjoying it, and I had my status, and so when I walked around the ship I was Captain Jim, so it was good. So anyway, I'm going to tell you, this will show you the firing of the August firing. Now, we had hundreds of firing. You guys that were in there in the missile days saw lots of these things, but this one was particularly interesting. So don't comment on it. So, if you could do that.
Aboard the guided missile ship Norton Sound, a flanking rocket is ready for firing. The place, the South Atlantic. The time last fall. This may have been one of the 3 rockets fired by the vessel about that time to explode nuclear bombs 300 miles high as part of Project Argus, the greatest scientific experiment ever conducted. The nuclear bursts in the vacuum of space threw a shell of radiation around the Earth within an hour. A globe-girdling network of thousands of scientists made observations. To monitor the radiation shell in outer space, the satellite Explorer 4th was launched, and all this in a secrecy not broken for 6 months. Most of the results are still not known. But it was a major breakthrough both for purely theoretical science and for military planners, hinting the possibility of throwing up a shield of radiation as a part of an anti-missile defense. In its vast scope and in its enormous accomplishments, Project Argus won proud new laurels for American science.
And I think I'll show you the next clips, because then I'll comment. There's another minute or so, then they have clip, just because it'll give you some perspective.
The launch ship was the USS Norton, based at Port Hueneme, California. She is a seaplane tender converted to a missile ship and required little modification for X-17A launching. Before leaving for the South Atlantic, Norton took 4 X-17As out for test flying in July off the California coast. This was supposed to work any
of the equipment and system, and to provide experience for the launch and tracking crews. The rocket's third stages were equipped with beacon transponders for radar tracking purposes. Their dummy warheads contained instrumentation to telemeter performance of the arming and firing system. Shot number 1 went off well. Stabilized by the small spin rockets belted around the first stage, the rocket reached altitude successfully. Note that the spin rockets fall away from the main rocket body as soon as the rotation is established. Rocket number 2 launched satisfactorily, but broke up in flight with wild veering. Rocket number 3 also broke up in flight. It was concluded that the induced spin rate was coinciding with the resonant frequency of the vehicle in the new configuration used for this particular project. To eliminate this source of trouble, the spin rockets were omitted from rocket number 4, with a hope that the consequent increase in dispersion would be acceptable. The cure worked, and rocket 4 flew satisfactorily, reaching a height in excess of 300 nautical miles. Incidentally, for convenience and consistency, we will use nautical miles as our dimensional unit throughout this report. After these trials, Norton Sound returned to Port Hueneme. 3 operational X-17A rockets, the nuclear warheads, and other general supplies were loaded aboard. Then the ship departed for the South Atlantic launch rendezvous, which was designated as Point Hueneme. The route selected for maximum security cover was down the west side of South America and around Cape Horn, then east to Point Hueneme. August is midwinter and cold in the South Atlantic. No routine activities such as whaling are likely to bring ships into the area at this season. This remoteness contributed to the security of the operation.
Okay, now you saw the launch of the rockets. I want to tell you, now raise your hand if you were on the Norton Sound. See, I know things that you don't know. Now, some of you may know this, I may not, you may not, because how many were working on the machinery? How many machinists were here? When I was there, I had 3 stations other than ordering sandwiches. When the skipper went out, I was his in the communications. I transmitted his orders. Right full rudder, left full rudder. He would say that. I'd say right full rudder, left. What they would do, whatever he said. So it went through me down there because he was jumping around all over the place. So I did that, and I was on the bridge when these missiles were fired. I mean, I'm standing there. I saw it. And then, well, anyway, and there was Task Force 88. So I was also in charge of the captain's office. So we had to clean up the ship, get everything ship shape. And the Norton Sound was there, and you guys were all doing your thing. I mean, you were there for other missiles or whatever. And so they would, but in this case, they brought a whole fleet because it was Project Argus around it. And the Norton Sound was in the center. And we fired those missiles up there. And I had 2 stations. When I was on the bridge, I was with the skipper, and then I was in charge of damage control, communications. So I had a mic like this, and I was listening through my earphones and transmitting, fire in the hole, tighten up the force, do whatever you have to do. So I would get orders, and I would transmit them. So I was hearing what was going on. So it looked pretty good. I mean, you have this task force in their lair, and they have like admirals and everything standing there watching going on, and we're on the ship firing these missiles. And it looks good. It was like a giant video game. But I'm on the bridge, and I hear what's really going on. I don't like swearing, so I'll edit my language here just out of courtity for the ladies and those of you who have gentle souls. But they would say, fire, go look at that too. And I don't know if you saw that one rocket that was spinning around. They were blowing up, and so they were terrified. We had deck guns, and those things were turning toward us. And so they were blasting away, trying to shoot them out of the air because they were all fearful that those damn rockets were going to come back and hit us. We didn't know what the hell was going to happen because they didn't know enough about rockets in those days. I mean, they fired them and prayed, you know. So it was, even today, I don't know how it is today. Captain Andrina can tell us, you know, it's probably much more sophisticated. It wasn't so sophisticated. In those days, they'd fire that sucker up there, parts would fall away, they'd be flying all over the place. I was really dumb, you know, because I was then a yeoman, and I had so I stayed on the deck with the skipper, and he was jumping around, but most of the officers, they jumped over the side. They were hiding behind the doors, they were watching these things. They had some idea that this stuff was dangerous. I had no idea that it was dangerous until I did the research for this talk. I loved every day I was on the ship. It was a lot of fun. It was like being a soldier in a video game, you know. It was reality gaming or whatever you wanted. So it was. You know, it was just a great experience for me. But I remember it all, and so that's sort of what happened. Yeah, let's move ahead. Oh, there's one more, and then take a look at this.
With the aircraft on station and arming procedures begun, all hands were sent under shelter for protection against vehicle malfunction or falling stages. Minutes later, the fine keys are closed and the stable element takes over. Approximately 2:30 a.m., 27 August 1958. This was the first known firing of a rocket missile with a nuclear warhead from a naval vessel. It was the first known instance of any type of nuclear weapon being fired from any vessel by any means. With the rocket launched, Norton Sound broadcast buzzer away. Kerala, at 0 plus 60 seconds, notified the aircraft 6 minutes to flashlight, and then counted down the minutes while the aircraft turned on their cameras at scheduled times.
Was it? Yeah. So what's important here, because of the museum, because you have the anchor, because there is the model, this was the first known firing of a nuclear weapon off of a ship in the history of the world. So the fact that it is iconic, I think, is quite significant. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit more story. So you know all about this. It was the test platform for missile systems and in Port Hueneme, and I mentioned the Aegis weapon system. We'll get to questions, because those of you who have been served on it probably have your own stories and comments that you want to make. I just want to relate it a little bit. It was, you know, I mean, I don't know. Navy's not too smart sometimes. They made tin soup cans out of it. I mean, they took this iconic ship that is legendary in the history of the world, the first guided missile ship ever, AVM-1, Aviation Missile Ship number 1, and made it into soup cans. And, oh, Tony says, that's true, it might have been radiated. Oh, tin cans, okay. So, but anyway, so from 45 to 86, all of us did one thing or another. And so, and the anchor is outside, which is even more impressive. I was impressive when I drove up this morning. It's more impressive to me now that I have thought about the story. And over in the administration building, there's a model, if you haven't seen it, of the Norton Sound and some write-up about it. But back to my little story. Because, as you know, I came aboard the Norton Sound as a seaman, right out of boot camp. And I'm the Chancellor of the Ventura County Community College District, 50,000 students, 3 colleges, 7th largest district in the United States, 3,000 employees, and I was a seaman. I was in charge of Liberty, putting the cars on the ship, and venereal disease reports. eating sandwiches every night, so you can ask my wife. So we gave you some materials that Beth and Cherise put together. There's a sheet in there about the Norton Sound. You can read it on your own. There's some materials in there with the Ventura County Community College District. But who in here does not live in Ventura County? Okay, so everybody here, you should know, you don't live in Ventura County?
Well, I used to.
Oh, okay. No, I think you should know what's going on here a little bit. And I'm the one to tell you, because I'm the Chancellor. It's the truth. I can go around and say that you're the Chancellor. I got a badge, they gave me that big badge now, and I have somebody I can tell what to do. He's like a big shot, though. He's like you were. You were Lieutenant Commander. Lieutenant Commander, pretty heavy metal as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, but this is Ventura Community College District. We have 3 colleges: Moore Park College, Oxnard, and Ventura College. And we have, who here is on the City Council for Wait, let's see. You guys are elected officials. So electeds call themselves, in my world, the electeds. It's like being in a James Bond movie because you do all the governance things. And these are our trustees. Actually, Art Hernandez is probably the trustee that is most related to Hueneme, but they're elected by area. And I in order to get along in life, I have to tell everybody who our trustees are. And they're wonderful, and we have a wonderful relationship. They oversee all 3 colleges in the county. Just so you know this, and I'm not going to spend much time on it, but it is context and it is related to me, and I'll tell you another little story. There are 113 colleges in California, community colleges. So there's a list. You can't see it very well, but you can see the dots. It means there are a lot of them. 3 of them in Ventura County. 72 community college districts, 113 colleges, and we do all kinds of degrees and certificates and serve about 2.5 million students in California, and across the country, about 10 million students. So it's a big operation, and there's a community college in driving distance of every American. And I want to tell you something, Nat, because most of you are vets, and I want to be able to say this. In 1946-48, when the veterans